I'm going to have a really hard time going home and justifying to my constituents in rural Manitoba how this is supposed to make their life better. I really don't see it, because you've got all the experts saying that this is in fact going to make life much, much worse. You know, I think there are people in this country, there are a few still left, although they're getting fewer, that went, you know, in the course of a world war and in peacekeeping missions, and they fought to defend these freedoms that this country stands for and that our allies around the world stand for. Freedom to believe what you want to believe and to believe in any religion and any faith. You know, my grandfather's a Second World War veteran. He left the farm in Margaret, Manitoba, population 100, and went to fight for freedoms against hateful people. And, you know, I think the vast majority of my constituents would expect me, though, to be here standing up for their freedom to believe what they want to believe, and that they and generations before us from our region have put their lives on the line to defend that, not just in this country, but around the world, for religions that they didn't even know or understand at the time that they were getting on a boat and shipping over there. And so for this now, you know, it's shocking to me that we have a group that wants to, you know, remove these types of freedoms and protections in our society. I really do want to stress the fact that Manitobans understand standing up against hateful acts. We've seen challenges with, you know, ethnic communities in Winnipeg being targeted by hateful acts, particularly with the rise of the conflict in the Middle East, hateful protests outside the Jewish Folklorama Pavilion, where people take their kids to celebrate faith. I mean, Manitobans are not strangers or isolated from these activities that are disturbingly going on in our country. We see them, but we believe that the provisions to protect Canadians from these actions already exist in Canadian statutes and in Canadian law. We have a problem with enforcement in this country, which, you know, is a problem that stems across many different types of crimes, thanks to Liberal government over the last 10 years. And this is just another example of a failure to enforce and prosecute existing laws that already exist. So I would encourage the Liberals to pull back on this bill, abandon their partnership with the Bloc, which shouldn't really have to be said, but apparently it does in this context, and rethink this, because, you know, I think we really need to make sure that this country, by the way, the generation that fought for these freedoms in other countries came back after the Great Wars and said, we need to solve this problem on our own. Like, we need to make sure that these things that we just went and fought a war over to protect can't happen here, which is why you got the Bill of Rights, like a colleague mentioned, and why the Charter was patriated, and it came back to Canada, and all of these provisions were added to protect the freedoms that Canadians deserve, and they were brought here onto Canadian soil and into Canadian law. I don't understand why the Liberals are trying to find a problem where none exists. To my Liberal colleagues, I ask that, given everything that's going on in this country, for young people, for seniors, for actual criminals and actual victims of crime, can we not take a reprieve from this bill and get on with the business of locking up criminals, of bringing safety back to our streets that is not being infringed upon by preachers and other religious figures and just general people trying to get an understanding of faith? Can we not get back to dealing with real criminals, to lock people up, bring back safety to our streets? Let's put the people of this country first, do all the good we can for as many people we can, as quickly as we can, and I am sure that this committee will still be here to deal with this ridiculous bill when we have achieved some actual results to make communities safer in this country. Thank you, Mr. Chair.